Tonight, fires across France. One protester telling us this is a war. Hundreds of thousands taking to the streets, outraged over French President Emmanuel Macron's unyielding determination to reform pensions here.
The government of Macron is just destroying everything in our society.
Police clashing with protesters. This the 10th day of nationwide demonstrations since January. Some setting light to garbage, throwing projectiles and smashing windows. In Paris, strikers shutting down popular tourist attractions, from the Louvre to the Eiffel Tower. Railway workers yielding flares, blocking the tracks at Paris's Gare de Lyon train station. French authorities responding with what they're calling an unprecedented show of force. 13,000 police officers deployed across the nation. The chaos stretching far beyond the capital. Police are fighting running battles with protesters in the streets. Things are being thrown. This is some guy here just been arrested. In Nantes, protesters scuffling with riot police, engulfed in clouds of tear gas. Massive crowds stretching across highways in Rennes. The historic unrest sparked by President Macron's plan to raise the retirement age from 62 to 64, ramming the measures through his country's legislature without a vote. His party says the country will rack up a deficit of more than $10 billion every year through 2032 if nothing is done. But protesters on the street not budging. I can see colleagues who work in school cafeterias as school maintenance workers, who at the end of their workday, although they're less than 60 years old, they already have physical difficulties. And one can't imagine what that would be like working until 64 years old. That's not possible. Cracks may be emerging, though. Paris sanitation workers suspending their weeks-long strike that has left mounds of trash piled high in city streets. Macron's government also signalling an olive branch, saying the president has said that he's ready to meet with the unions once because we respect our institutions. Macron increasingly unpopular despite his re-election last year, looking for a legacy, a battle of wills between the president and his people.
And with that, Keir Simmons joins top story tonight from Paris. Keir, we're getting some late word about another strike, and I know you have some new reporting for us.
That's right, Tom. There will be another strike, an 11th day of strikes in April. So that shows you that the protesters are determined to keep going. It's damaging for President Macron. Remember that he is planning in a week's time, just think about this, to travel to France to meet with President Xi. And one of the issues on the agenda, of course, will be the war in Ukraine. So you've got the president of France, one of the most important leaders in Europe, heading to China for those negotiations, while at the same time, he's got all of these disturbances back home. I mean, that's the picture that makes this really kind of challenging on a global scale.
And Keir, going back to some of the images we saw in your report from today and from over the weekend, are the protests so bad that they're disrupting the daily life of Parisians? Social media is now full of these sort of memes, mocking Parisians, if you will, trying to go on with their life, but burning garbage in the streets.
Yeah, I mean, look, but it's a great city, Tom, right? And like all great cities, life continues even while there are these protests, even something close to riots at times taking place in some of the streets. You can see here behind me, you know, life is carrying on in this city. Listen, I think the question here, Tom, is this. How much of a challenge is this really for the president, for President Macron, who is so powerful? French presidents are so powerful. And are we seeing here Macron maybe beginning to win this fight and a real change in the fabric of French society? Because that's what the protesters think they are fighting over. It's not just about retirement age, they think. They think it's about what France is about.
And finally, Keir, you know, tourism is such a big part of the Parisian economy. Is that being talked about at all? Because if you're anywhere in the world and you're seeing what's happening in Paris right now, you may want to reschedule that trip.
Yeah, you may do. You shouldn't do, because actually these are isolated events here in France and here in Paris. I'll tell you something really interesting, Tom. People have a perception of France as safe. So whenever something like this happens, there can be an impact on tourism, but it doesn't tend to last very long. And they make so much money from tourism here. Frankly, I think that is set to continue.
Thanks for watching our YouTube channel. Follow today's top stories and breaking news by downloading the NBC News app.